This is Anne. And if you would have come to visit Anne last week at the Academy for Global Citizenship, which is a new Chicago public school, she would have welcomed you with about 149 of her classmates in kindergarten through second grade. And there you would have joined her at 8:15 a.m. for an organic breakfast that's freshly prepared every day at our school. The school day proceeds with a strong emphasis of literacy, technology, math, and science development, while Anne might spend some time in the organic schoolyard garden, visiting maybe a local farm or taking a field trip to an architecture firm, attending a United Nations peace rally. She might attend a sustainability education class, collaborate with students around the globe, learn a second or third language. It's really a different place where her colleagues really perceive their role in the world quite differently. So you may be wondering, how did this come about? Why did this come about for Anne? It didn't necessarily occur to me 6 years ago when I began this journey that we would be living in a time where the state of our economy and ecology, health, and education systems would be at stake. In fact, did you know 30% of American high school students don't graduate, and every 9 seconds in America, another student drops out. Dropouts are substantially more likely to rely on public assistance, with an estimated lifetime revenue loss of $944 billion. What about health? 1 of 3 of our nation's children is now considered overweight or obese. And the children born in the year 2000, 1 of every 3 Caucasians, 1 of every 2 African American and Hispanics will contract diabetes in their lifetime. So the result of this, you might be wondering, is the first generation in our country's history to die at a younger age than their parents. These 2 diseases, obesity and diabetes, cost our country $260 billion in healthcare a year. What about the global economy? The 25% of our population in China with the highest IQs is greater than the total population in North America. In India, it's 28%. The translation? They have more intelligent children than we have children. Did you know that China will soon become the #1 English-speaking country in the world? What about the state of our environment? That seems to be a topic that we're reading about in the news lately. I recently read that the Arctic Ocean could be ice-free by 2050, and more than 1 million species could be driven to extinction in less than 40 years. 1.1 billion people do not have access to safe water, and as a result, 500 children die every day. Now that is not a very encouraging future for Anne. I am known to many as an educator, an environmentalist, a globetrotter, and somebody who literally cannot sit still. And I might be the craziest and most idealistic person, ironically, that they know. But yet I stand here today to say that I don't believe we have ever lived in a time where our optimism has faced such great challenge. As I consider the state of our economy, the health of humanity, the condition of our educational system, the status of the planet, it seems as though things have been growing worse than improving in our nation's most recent history. We are living in a time where the world is screaming for audacious and sustainable solutions, and the only way that we're going to create lasting change is through the education of our next generation. We must capture the source of change, which is our children. Let me take you a step back and share with you a little bit about my journey and how I've gotten here. I will never forget that moment where I stepped off the plane, passport in hand, for the first time. After growing up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I expected a challenge, but didn't anticipate that my new colleagues in Cambridge, England, would evoke such this catalytic inspiration for me at that time. Suddenly, I was faced with an array of different languages and histories and cultures and perspectives. And at that point, I began this quest to understand educational systems and philosophies around the world. Throughout the past 9 years, I've had the opportunity to visit 77 countries across 6 continents. And it was these experiences, a storybook of discoveries, and through countless encounters that 4 things hit me. The first was a deep recognition of the lack of access to quality education, the tremendous disparities that exist not only on a national but a global level. And at some point, I realized that this was happening in my own backyard in Chicago. The second was exposure to a variety of health epidemics AIDS, malnutrition, and ironically, obesity. And through the exposure to some of the world's most renowned educational systems, including the International Baccalaureate program, I realized that some countries really do have effective systems of education and effective economies in place. And fourth, and perhaps most significant, was how our choices every day are impacting not only the lives of people around the globe, but the life of our planet. I could not help but to wonder, what if we don't change the way that we're educating and preparing our children to thrive in such an environmentally volatile and globally competitive nature of this world? And what if, instead of preparing Anne to survive, we prepared her to thrive? Many of today's political, environmental, educational challenges are a result of short-term objectives. Whether it's corporate quarterly profits, no child left behind, or purchasing cheaper food, it's the short-term thinking that is dictating policy and is failing our nation. Addressing and healing these ills will only come from a real commitment to sustainable and long-term thinking, and thinking big. As Daniel Burnham once said, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood. Make big plans. Aim high and hope and work." Let me repeat, make no little plans. Our time is pleading for audacious thinking. Speaking of Burnham, after Cambridge, I settled in Chicago for the first time, and it was really through the convergence of these realizations, these four realizations, that I felt an urgent shift to change the way that we as a nation are thinking about education. In 2004, Chicago's Mayor Daley made an announcement that will forever continue to shape what we know as history. His mission, with the support of Arne Duncan, was to change and revitalize Chicago's public education system through creating 100 new schools by 2010. These 100 new choices for underserved families would be rooted in international best practices and represent pure innovation. It was then that a seed was planted. I was 23 and I was naive, but I knew that my next mission was to create a school, and not just any school. I wondered, what if we integrated concepts like international mindedness and social justice, nutrition education, environmental stewardship, all beginning in kindergarten? So a year after founding a nonprofit and developing a board of directors and literally speaking to anyone willing to listen to me about a new vision for education, I delivered that first proposal to the Board of Education on my bike. After reviewing the proposal, a few people laughed out loud, and one person straight up called me crazy. But needless to say, the board said no. It was that very no that fueled my determination. 1 year later, with that very no, with the help of a team that had grown exponentially, I rode my bike back to the Board of Education with a second, much enhanced proposal. One person commented on my bike helmet that year, and another person said, "Don't you think that global citizenship is too sophisticated for those children?" Another resounding no. In year 3, I asked if they would actually be willing to reuse the 100 post-consumer waste proposal binders that I had submitted in years 1 and 2. They said no. Nevertheless, I had my helmet, I had the new binders, and that crazy tenacity, off I rode to the Board of Education for the third time with proposal number 3. In the silence of in the remaining minutes of that panel review, I tried not to think about waiting another year to convince the Board of Education for the dire need of a school like the Academy for Global Citizenship. And for a split second, I questioned if these 3 years of my life merely perfected my ability to ride a bike in a skirt. And on October 24th, 2007, the Board of Education approved the Academy for Global Citizenship as a Chicago public school. And forever in my memory, on August 18th, 2008, our first 90 wide-eyed students entered our doors. 2 years later, the Academy for Global Citizenship serves 200 kindergarten through 3rd grade students, 80% of whom are living below the poverty level. With only 11% of our first grade students entering on grade level last year, 98% of our kindergarten students are prepared to enter first grade on track this year. In fact, 20% of our students are an entire grade level ahead. But the most important growth we've seen far it surpasses these academic measures of progress. The Board of Education now recognizes the Academy for Global Citizenship for our environmental innovation. They seek our involvement on an environmental task force, directing administrators from across the globe through the doors of the Academy for Global Citizenship, and utilizing our Sustainable Schools Handbook that was developed by our team. And our efforts have not only been an example, but they've been a catalyst that has inspired change in the nation's third largest school district. Chartwell's Thompson Hospitality is the district's food service provider, and they also chose to partner with us on our organic pilot program, our learning laboratory. Last year, Chartwell's Thompson purchased $1.8 million of local food. That's a 1,200% increase from the previous year. And that's just the beginning. They've also adopted enhanced nutritional standards that will take place this fall, with an emphasis on whole grains and fresh fruits and dark leafy green vegetables. Who would have thought that in 2010, nearly 500,000 children would be impacted? We've also witnessed such a notable impact on the lives of our families, as our children themselves have adopted the mission of the Academy for Global Citizenship. I never knew that 5-year-olds could be such persuasive teachers to their parents. Our students have inspired their families to attend healthy cooking classes, bring some worms into their homes to begin vermicomposting, start growing vegetables in their front yards. They've even started an organic community garden that will start this summer, let alone such a vested interest in the education and the lives of their children. On an international level, we've welcomed more than 1,800 visitors to the Academy for Global Citizenship in the last 2 years, from far away as Japan, Nigeria, and Sweden, to witness our innovation. We've sent our teachers to places like Peru and Tanzania and the Arctic Circle to develop sister school partnerships, examine international best practices in education, and to study climate change with our students. With 2 years packed full of these exciting successes, some people may believe that we've already accomplished our goal. But in the grand scheme of things, we've just gotten started. In response to our current global challenges, environmental author and consultant Joe McAuliffe writes, "We've got about 5,000 days to figure it out. That's just over 13 years before the planet's environment is damaged beyond repair. Where is the urgency? Where is the audaciously big thinking?" As the Academy for Global Citizenship's Director of Sustainability and Operations recently shared, at AGC we strive for the very urgency and audacity that are required to save this planet. Those 13 years give each school day perspective. What seems like the distant future of tomorrow is really just today. The seeds of environmentalism that we sow at AGC cannot be ripened or cannot be appreciated until they ripen tomorrow. And now it's just one tree, but what we envision here is an orchard. At AGC, we weave the reality of today with an audaciously bold vision for tomorrow. In fact, on a visit to the Academy for Global Citizenship today, you see students harvesting organic vegetables from the school's garden to prepare with their families, and you see AGC families running a community garden. But tomorrow, we envision every schoolyard and home across the nation growing food for their community. Today, you see students separating their waste and recyclables and compostables. They deliver some of them to the schoolyard chickens and some to the worms that are vermicomposting in their classrooms. But tomorrow, we envision AGC graduates creating cradle-to-cradle packaging for consumer products that will greatly reduce the waste, energy, and materials. Today, you see first graders asking their teacher about climate change as she live streams from the Arctic, a little different from when I was in school. Tomorrow, we envision our students traveling the world, sharing their life stories of sustainability and living in a world of environmental justice. Today, you see the beginning of an official walk and bike to school campaign led by our families. But tomorrow, we envision students living and designing new walkable cities. Today, you see AGC creating a sustainable schools handbook of our processes and practices to share with all Chicago public schools. But tomorrow, we envision sitting around the table and actively collaborating with those directors of sustainability for every Denver and Chicago public school. Today, you see the Academy for Global Citizenship students working with architects to create playground equipment that produces renewable energy next to our wind turbine and solar schoolyard. Tomorrow, we envision Anne discovering a new form of renewable energy to share with the world. Here's some perspective. In 5,000 days, the Academy for Global Citizenship's first graduating class will be 20 years old. Anne will be 18. At that point, we hope to reflect on our accomplishments with gratification. Until then, we will wake up tomorrow and work to create an audaciously more sustainable future, one student at a time. We have got work to do. With the annual addition of a grade level and associated growth of our students to 550 in 2015-2016, we will soon outgrow our currently leased home, which, by the way, is a barrel factory that's located in between a truck parts shop and a pallet company in a very industrial part of the city of Chicago. But 3 years from now, our goal is to move into a permanent home on a 10-acre farm, urban farm, just down the street in the heart of the city. However, our larger goal is to inspire the way that society educates the lifeblood of our future by fostering this systemic change, so that one day every school district across America will have a school like the Academy for Global Citizenship. We are striving to produce a live, replicable model for learning in the 21st century through the construction of a net positive energy school building, a building that's literally producing more energy through renewable sources than it's consuming. And this system, built upon the integration of sustainable practices into the environment, will act as a third teacher, a prototype that will shift the way systems across the globe educate our next generation to excel in a world that depends on the state of our planet. But is it enough? Is it enough to have 50 students graduating in 2016 as stewards of proactive change? It's been such an honor to listen to the stories and the visions and the audacity of the speakers here tonight. And as I look into an audience of all of these thought leaders, I ask you and I wonder, what's your audacious idea? And what mission drives you? What change will we create together? AGC is living today what we envision for tomorrow. However, we will not succeed as a microcosm in Chicago. It's only through planting these seeds of education today on a global level that our children and grandchildren will be faced with a better future tomorrow. The health of humanity, our economy, the environment, and the state of our nation depend on it, on us. Thank you.